Well, hello everybody. I'm Peter Deegan and I've got David Abraham, and together we're the course tutors for the Pharmaceutical Lead Auditor Course, particularly the PR330 variant for pharmaceutical supply chain and packaging standards. Hello David.
Good afternoon to you, and it's a lovely sunny afternoon in Reading.
Yeah, we've just finished the course this week. The delegates are in their IRCA exam this afternoon, so we thought we'd just have a chat about our reflections on the course. And in particular, this particular course covers the pharmaceutical supply chain for suppliers, particularly choosing the pharmaceutical quality group standards. Why did we choose these standards in this course, David?
I think one of the key things why we chose the standards is it directly relates to the pharmaceutical industry and the supply chain, and we concentrate on probably a number of different standards. One being PS9000, the other one being the international standard for primary packaging material, that's ISO 15378, as well as the excipient standard and the IPAC PQG. It's quite interesting that you mentioned the packaging standards and the relationship with the PQG. Pharmaceutical Quality Group, who is obviously the PQG, they are very much affiliated and associated with the CQI, Chartered Quality Institute. They were the first special interest group to be aligned with, as it was in the IQA, but it's now this CQI. So we have a long standing history with the CQI and also with the industry itself, both from a national and international level.
And what type of delegate are we expecting to come onto this course? It's the pharmaceutical supply chain. The pharmaceutical supply chain is quite diverse. We've always said that GMP is a very pure product control specification. It's quite uniform worldwide. When you go into a GMP factory, you kind of know what you're doing. But there's such a range of different standards in the pharmaceutical suppliers. What is a typical pharmaceutical supplier? Are they experienced in GMP? Do they know GMP? Do we need GMP, or do we need more standards of better relevance?
I think probably the best way to answer that question, Peter, is to really look at the history around pharmaceuticals. If we go back to pre-2001, which was the first PS9000 as an example, there used to just a code of practice, and that code of practice was introduced purely on the basis of introducing GMP elements, core critical GMP elements to the supply chain. Supply chain being cartons, leaflets, labels. It can even extend to tertiary packaging as well, although that's not encompassed within any of the core standards. But then you have the excipients, we have ONIDP, which is the for America, oral, nasal and inhalation drug products. And we class that as complex packaging. And so it goes to the next level for the packaging supply chain.
And what is the experience of the delegates who come on this course? So we have a lot of pharmaceutical professionals, supply chain professionals, clinical professionals. The first couple of days of our course really covers these diverse supplier standards. What have you observed of their experience, and what's their journey?
I think the experience is very interesting. We've been running this course I've been involved in this course for circa the last 5 years, and we see varying delegates from different industries come onto the course. We have people from clinical supply, as you say, and also from GMP background. We have logistics backgrounds. The people from DHL and people like that would come onto this type of course. We have consultants that come on the course. We even have BSI people, or actually certification bodies, personnel that would come onto the course, because it's alignment to the requirements for that supply chain. And if we think of supply chain and suppliers themselves, is anything that is utilised in a manufacturing process, right from raw materials through the packaging itself in its raw form.
And so we've got these standards, the packaging standards, the product or the service standards at that front end. And of course, our course is the IRCA Pharmaceutical Lead Auditor Course. And our core guidance that we use for instruction throughout the week is ISO 19011 auditing guidance. How does that marry against auditing against a pharmaceutical supply chain?
I think you mentioned 19011, which is the guidance, the international guidance for auditing. They align and marry because it's the foundation. 19011 is the foundation for auditing right across the international boundaries, and that can align to specifics around where we're looking at now, which is the packaging supply chain. And that packaging supply chain is taking the skills, the techniques, the requirements and the guidance from 19011 and applying that to the relevant standards. So for instance, if you took 15378 primary packaging standard, that is the requirements, the GMP and also the ISO requirements for manufacturing, production and distribution and supply of primary packaging to the pharmaceutical industry. And it includes the GMP elements. Now, if you apply the requirements with the guidance of how to audit, the techniques, the planning, the preparation, the stage 1 and stage 2 elements of an audit, if you build that both together, then you get a very qualified and experienced auditor.
So our pharmaceutical lead auditor course is 5 days. So the first 2 days really focus on those packaging standards and start to walk through ISO 19011 as the auditing guidance. And we've got a 1-hour exam on the Wednesday morning. So what does day 1 and 2 look like in terms of an education process for the delegates so that they can confidently walk into that exam room on the Wednesday morning against the pharmaceutical quality group exam?
I think day 1 primarily is the introduction into auditing and the 19011 and inclusive of the pharmaceutical standards that they're going to be utilising as part of their the auditing skills. And it is a focus around that. So it's a very introduction day into auditing, understanding the IRCA background, understanding the alignment to the CQI, the certification process, and how that works from the International Accreditation Forum, all the way down to the CQI, down to them as an auditor and how they can be accredited to different levels. There's 13 different schemes out there plus in the marketplace from 14001 through to packaging standards, and pharmaceutical has two levels, and that is what we class as a PR330 course, which is directed towards pharmaceutical packaging, and we have a 325 course, and that one is which I'm sure you'll do another podcast on, but that one is around sort of the GMP aligned to ICH Q10. So day 1 is that introduction and that warming towards the standard. Day 2 is a very much intense course, which is a build up to the assessment, I like to call assessment rather than exam, on day 3. But that is now getting into the GMP elements of the packaging supply, understanding supply chains, what are the requirements for the supply chains, what are the requirements for each particular supplier, because every single supplier is different. Every single supplier will operate to a different level of standard. So it's introducing the concept for auditing, and on day 2 it takes you into more granular detail of the GMP and the requirements for a specific sector or a specific supplier.
So that's the exam for day 3, for days 1 and 2 done on the pharmaceutical packaging standards and the diverse standards, etc. Then we go into day 3, 4 and 5 where we cover mainly ISO 9001 for our PR330 variant. I guess the reason why we've chosen ISO 9001 is because that's an applicable standard across any industry, particularly industries that may not have a predicate standard like GMP, etc. So that gives us a common language to talk across, and we intersperse and marry together ISO 9001. This is an auditing course, I guess, the way I would put it. ISO 19001 is covered every single day. We've got the standards to then attach to that auditing process. What we try and do is we try and make it a real world auditing course. It's not death by PowerPoint. We have to use certain communication learning tools. But what type of exercises do we run that make it real world for a trainee auditor to get some proper auditing experience during that week?
I think we run a number of different exercises, and I wouldn't like to give finite details of the exercises, but let's just say that it's a controlled environment, and in that controlled environment we present different scenarios to each of the delegates. They work in teams, and or they work as individuals as well, depending on the exercises. And it is a very much interactive. So even from day two, at the end of day two, there is probably about 3 exercises where they start really getting into the first steps of auditing, and they meet a number of different characters along the way, and we target to have documents available to the delegates so we can create, as far as we possibly can, this real life environment that they may come across. And obviously some of the characters, and we utilize yourself and myself, we utilize our experience, our audit experience, situations where we've been in, and we bring that very much to the front in these exercises, and that prepares them obviously for the assessment on day 3, but also prepares them for the first steps into the auditing career.
It's an interesting point you make about we try and share our auditing experience, and I guess the feedback we always get is we've got some interesting stories throughout our careers, and I think that's that paying it forward, really sharing our experiences to people who are just starting their career, developing their career in auditing. And I think that's a really good way of educating, really, is to what happened in the past, how did I deal with that situation, and how can I pay that forward and pass that forward and put that learning and make it more alive than just reading a guidance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we always get asked a lot of questions, and one of the questions that always comes up is, do you really come across people like that? Have you ever been in that situation? How did you deal with it? And that's where the background comes into it, and that's not just for suppliers. You can give experiences of projects we've gone and audited, and the same experiences and the same countries, different cultures that we've come across. And we bring that into our exercises and share that, and they're never the same. We try to be different in our approach, rather than continue with the same characters. And some are good characters, some are not so good characters. And some of the characters, I suppose, are auditees who are competent in their approach, and also incompetent. You'll meet characters along the way that are incompetent. They don't know what they're doing, but they want to try and display what they're doing. You may come across a situation where we put an exercise together where we have somebody who knows exactly what they're doing, and you can't tell them anything. They know every single regulation, and they're waiting for you to say you've got a non-conformance or a concern. Again, concerns, I love the terminology that is used in some of the exercises when the delegate comes back and says, we have a concern. Ooh, that's a very emotive language. So again, in these exercises, we're looking for language, the presentation back to the auditors or auditees or the companies as well. So yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun, really.
I was just about to say, we both really enjoy running this course. It's a lot of fun. We love paying forward our experiences, etc. So thank you very much, David. That's been a really interesting insight from how you see the audit course, coming from that packaging specialism side, and myself from the quality systems side and the ISO 9001 side. If anybody is listening on this podcast and wants to know more and is intrigued and wants to be a better auditor, then contact us via the RSSL website, bookings@rssl.co.uk. And what we also do now is that if you're wondering which course is best for you, we now offer a consultation service where myself or somebody else can have a quick Teams meeting with you for 15-20 minutes, help you understand, do a bit of analysis of your background and your needs in auditing, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction to the right course.
Yeah, I also think it's worth mentioning that obviously we do this as a course, and we're here in Cookham. We're actually in a lovely place in Cookham. But, we can bring this to, if you have a big, reasonable organisation, you have a number of different auditors you want to train, internal auditing or external auditing, or even as a lead auditor. We can bring the same experiences, and we can actually come to your location or their location and supply that as an in-house private course from. So yeah, there's lots of opportunity, not just to restrict yourself to specific dates as well. So.
Absolutely. And for 2023 in our calendar, we're coming further north, where we'll be running some of these courses in the northwest as well for the first time.
I shall have my passport ready.
We'll have to do some stringent checks and audit that application form. Okay, David, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to chat and reflect on our course that we've run this week.
Thank you very much.